cumulative effect of God's design for your life, God's goals. It's the cumulative effects that we have over and over as we chart the path of God's plan for our life. Because as a Christian, I place my paradigm in that. I rest it right there. That nothing happens without God allowing it. And so your purpose, your divine destiny, and the cumulative acts that happen over time defines purpose. The next thing that I would want to say about purpose, it is our divine impact as we seek to uplift others by our talents and our skills that are also given to us by God. The price of change, in my opinion, as it relates to purpose, is what will it cost me? What am I willing to give up to meet my divine purpose, to make these cumulative acts count, to make my skills do a work that is beyond me, or what gives me up? What am I giving up, or what gives me up? Because sometimes God has to take things from us so we understand our purpose. He has to change our path so we understand our purpose. He has to change our direction so we understand our purpose. He has to change our mindset so we understand our purpose. And all of those changes can be jerks for us to open our eyes to understand that we need to make this climb. So that's one of the things that purpose do. Our lives are designed by God, and I'm agreeing with C. Our lives are designed by God, and the steps of a righteous man are ordered by God. So change, in my opinion, from the point of view of a Christian, is not disappointments. They are not distresses. They are not delays. They are divine time-appointed selections that God uses to give us a wake-up call sometimes. The next thing that I think that change does for us, the purpose of change, is the why. So we must learn the lessons when change comes. We are not to be complaining. We are to be more grateful for change. And we will see change now as God's landscape, as God's ladder, as God's steps for taking us into the different eras of our lives to walk us to our destiny.
Wow. Dr. Marcia, I am already at a place where I have one page full because you are just dropping so many gems here tonight. You talked about what I'm willing to give up and what is willing to give me up. That is huge. That is profound. You talk about we must change our path, the mindset, the direction. You talk about it's not disappointment, it's not distress, it's divine appointed selection. Oh my. I am happy that we are recording this program tonight because there's so many gems here that we need to go back and think about. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just pause because I noticed some persons came into the room after we started. We are actually talking with Dr. Marcia Thomas. She is Thomas Powell. She's joining us from the island of Jamaica, and we're talking about navigating the purpose and price of change. And I asked her just the second question, and we are so far ahead already that we need to be sitting here maybe for another 2 hours, but we only have a 1 hour program. And so we are going to move along because we have to leave the last 15 minutes for the audience to ask any questions that they may have. You have said quite a lot right there, Dr. Marcia. But what are some of the major reasons, in your opinion again, that you think people hide or refuse to accept change?
Well, let me say change is the only constant. And if we are to look carefully at change, change by itself does not give you any prompt many times. Apart from maybe a loved one that is ill, that you are preparing for that person to pass because you might have been diagnosed with an illness that is not, it's life-changing in itself, but it's not gonna go away. We terminal in itself, that we say, okay, you have 3 years to live. That in itself should be enough preparation. But a number of us reject change because we are unprepared for change. And no matter how we try to prepare ourselves, I know that my mother got ill and I knew she was declining. But when that time come, it was hard for me. It is still hard for me to accept that. So there are some things that you will never be prepared for adequately. And some persons reject it because they are unprepared. Now, there are other persons who reject change because they are not ready. Unpreparedness is that you never made any plans for that, or the plans that you made were not sufficient. But not ready means that you never envision change in yourself. You never imagine that change would be coming. So you are not ready. And then there is the issue of not having the support that you need as you transition. So you might be ready, but there is not enough support for you to make that transition. And so it becomes a little difficult. You also might not be ready for change because you are not settled. And so the rolling stone gathers no moss. And so you are not settled. Just as you got yourself together, then you are now asked to change again. And then you reject change because you have no choice in the matter. Change is thrust upon you. And so you have no choice. If you had a choice, the next thing why persons reject change is because they settle. They are settled in a comfort zone that they are not ready to leave. And one other reason that holds many persons captive is that they are very fearful of what the next step would be. So they do not readily accept change. And that in itself are hindrances to change.
Wow, 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 wow. That is all I can say because I have nothing to add to that. So much power in that. No prompt, rejected, unprepared, and the words just continue to go. Dr. Marcia,
Could we, just before you go though, can we bear in mind also that there are some persons who, even if they are prepared, even if everything adds up, even if the line is made, even if the bed is spread and all they have to do is go in it, they just have a mindset of rejecting change. They are just complainers. They are just pessimistic by nature. They just don't appreciate anything. So we have that type of mindset also that rejects change.
and that's one we have to be careful of because that's a weak mindset where you're not able to face up to the reality of change. And so we have
Very
to
much
be
so.
careful of those kind of mindsets when we face them. But you have a way of putting things in context, and sometimes they they speak so much. I read a post, and I want to bring this up because I read a post from you the other day. And one of the things you said in the post, you said, keep it simple. And when I think about change, do you believe that it is the inability for most people to keep things simple that has resulted in them paying larger price for the change? How do you view that? Because I read and you talked about so many things. If people would do so many things and just keep it simple, then life would be better. Do you think that it's because of that inability to keep things simple why change is so difficult for many people?
Very true. There are some persons who are complicated by nature. So a very simple thing becomes a mountain for them. A simple thing like changing, for example, your seat becomes so complex because they had wanted the wind, the light is coming in right here, there is so much view, and so on. But if it's just simple by saying, I just cannot change my seat at this time, it would make it so much easier. It's the same way we change. There are some things that we have no choice. Change we must or die. And so if we look at the why for the change, if we look at the value of the change, if we look at the need for the change, it becomes so much simpler than looking at what the change is likely to do or not do, what it should or should not do. But if we look at the bright side of change, then change in itself takes on meaning. And the meaning that change takes on is, what is in it for me? What is the lesson that God wants me to learn at this point? What is it that I should be shedding? What is it that does not work for me? What is it that does not add value? What is it that is a clutter? How have I cumbered myself? If those questions are asked, then change becomes much more simpler. Because if we answer the why, if we answer the how, if we answer the where, then those are goals that we have set in ourselves that are achievable. And that makes us become smart enough to embrace those changes without being as fearful as we normally are, because we make it so complex. What's going to happen if I make this move? I don't know what direction I'm going in. And I have a friend, when I was changing, I'm changing some things in my life, and I was very fearful. And I said to my friend, who is supposed to be online, I feel like Abraham, when God sent him out there, he didn't know what direction to take and so on. And she says, the only thing that you need to fear is fear itself. You have all the skills and you have God. So the only thing you need to fear is fear itself. So one of the things that make change so complex is fear, because fear propels us in a direction that is like a rocking chair that takes you nowhere, because fear cannot assist you. What we need to do is embrace that fear in itself is a healthy thing that can propel us to take the risk and make the choice to take a chance so there can be the change.
Wow. Dr. Marcy, I'm going to have to drill down a little bit deeper into something that you just said, because you said, what is in it for me? What is in it for me? And so is that looked at in a negative way or in a positive way? Because one might be saying, I'm not moving from here if there's nothing in it for me. Or I'm going because there is something there to obtain. How do you see that? Because that in itself, what is in it for me, can be very negative, and it can also spin on the positive side. How does that line up with the price and the purpose for change?
Well, as we look at bars, there are many of us who have burglar bars on our homes. And from our side, from inside our homes, it is protection. But outside our homes, if we lose that key to open that padlock on that burglar bar, it becomes a prison. And so this depends on whose side and which side you're looking at it from, because change in itself is necessary. We make changes every day in our lives. We may have to change our taxi, we change our clothes, we change our soap, we change our hair products. Those are basic things that does not create any fear or anxiety in the normal person, because you know that there are exceptions to every rule. But let's look at what is the value for me. If I decide to change my job, what is the value in it for me? I would now have to look at what are the benefits I'm deriving from this job at this time, and what is it that I can derive from another job that will put me in a greater zone of self-care and awareness. So if I look at it from that angle, I am giving up something that is valuable for something more valuable. So that's it. Now, if I say, what's in it for me? It can be that I'm saying, what do I have to lose? So when I look now and quantify what I am losing, by making this change. It might be things that I should have lost 10 years ago, but were hanging on to for dear life. So when I look at it from that angle, I am now willing to put them out of the way, to clear the path so I can see clearly, to make the right steps and evolve into the person that God has designed for me to be. And so any angle we look at it is an angle that can add value. Any angle.
Thank you for clarifying that, Dr. Marcia, because change is always possible. And the bottom line is how you see it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have joined us since we last took our break, we are in the room here and we're talking with Dr. Marcia Thomas. She is a stalwart. Let me just use that word. She's joining us from the beautiful island of Jamaica, and she has done so much work. I tell you before, when I started, that this is a lady I highly admire because she always have a word of wisdom. We are past the halfway mark in our program already, and we have to leave another 15 minutes for the audience to ask any questions that they have. And I know there are going to be questions coming and comments. But Dr. Marcia, I want to go to another question here. What are some ways, in your opinion, that persons can use to face or say to navigate the purpose on one hand and the price on the other, or even to overcome and face change? What are some ways that you would say? Somebody looking for practical ways. What are some of those?
Well, first of all, I have to speak from a Christian point of view. Believe that all things work together for good to them that love God. That's one. The next thing I would say is that you believe that nothing is impossible. So this too is not impossible. It is something that you can navigate, and it's something that you can master, and it's something that you can overcome and adjust to. So that's the first thing that I want to say. When change comes, what you need to adjust is your mindset. Because sometimes when change comes, you have no choice. All you have is you, and you are really enough, because you are the one that needs to adjust and make the change. And so you have to change your mindset. Then the next thing I would say to you is embrace the change. Embrace the change. Become very familiar with what needs to change and embrace the change. Then the next thing I would want to say is that as you visualize how you would make that change, how you visualize, because your mindset is changed, you are embracing the change, and you're now going to have to make the change. You have to visualize why you are making the change. And you need to put those down on paper and be very honest and realistic with yourself. Face the facts. I am making the change because if I don't make the change, I'm going to get a stroke. I am making the change because I need to change my environment. I am making this change because it is one of the greatest opportunities of my life. I am making the change because God has orchestrated, and it is His time has come for me to do what I am destined to do. And then when you make those goals and put them on paper, you now have to actualize the change. So you take the steps that are required to make the change. You get the support that you need. You research what is it that you need to prepare and to adjust. And then you adapt to the change, because all of those things have brought you to the place of change. You are now standing in change. So you must celebrate the moments of progress. You must practice self-care, mental and also emotional. And you must listen to yourself. Sometimes we listen to too many persons, and those persons are not living the change that we need. And they from the outside see things so much differently from us. But it is our eyes that are important because we are the ones that will be living the change. If you also need help, you must ask for it because change in itself is not as easy as we want it to be. And when someone is there to give the support, it makes change so much easier, so much easier. And we must lean into Christ. Get into a habit of asking God for direction. And when he says this is the way walking in it, just walk. Just take the walk. Take the leap of faith. Take that step. That step is a crossover step that will make the change worth it.
Dr. Marcia, you have said a lot right there. You talk about the belief, the overcoming, the mindset adjustment, embracing the change. But you came down to a part where you say, if you need the help, ask for it. Somebody may be saying, Dr. Marcia, I don't know how to ask for it. I don't know how to ask for change. Would you say it is also on the onus of those who see persons who need change in their life to really approach them and help them to make that change?
I want to say yes, but I am actually hesitant because when God is in the change, I remember just last week or the week before that he places in your path destiny helpers, persons who will carry you through, whether by prayer or by means or resources. I had a friend recently who was a very smart businessman, but he got himself in a little bind when COVID came and his business went down a little. Now he came up with a brilliant idea of how he would want to sort his business out. But in the process of doing that, he had gotten so depressed that he called one of his very good friends and he said, I feel like giving in. I'm throwing in the towel. I think I'm going to give up. But I have a very brilliant business idea and I want to trust you with that idea. I want you to be the one to actually carry it out when I am gone. And when he called, he did not get the friend on the line. So he left a voice note and the friend picked up the voice note and drove to his house and said, man, how much money do you need? And gave him the money. So that in itself, that person became a destiny helper. So of course, persons are to see that you need help. But I prefer the divine destiny helpers, the ones that God point on your path because you are very sure, absolutely sure that they were placed there for that purpose. Sometimes when we reach out to all and sundry, we do not benefit. Some persons are delayers. They get your idea. They know it's a great idea. They know it will work, but I want it to work for me. I don't want you to have it. Let God send you to those persons who can help you. And if God places on your heart to help someone that is in need, just help. That's where I stand with those persons who can help persons. Make sure you're a destiny helper. You're doing it for the right reasons, that it is a mutual understanding, that is reciprocal. I learn from you, you learn from me. Each one reach one. If it is not in that frame of mind, then it's not help. And we have to be guarded because some persons become destiny delayers and not destiny helpers.
Wow, wow, and wow. Destiny delayers. I'm going to have to make a note of that one. We are here talking with Dr. Marcia, and there's so many gems that she's dropping in on us tonight. At this fireside, we just heard about the destiny delayer. They delay the destiny. But Dr. Marcia, somebody's sitting here and the person is saying, Dr. Marcia, I hear everything that you're saying, but I would rather to stay in my place where I am. I would rather stay in my state than face all of that purpose and that pain of change. What would you advise this person, Dr. Marcia, as a coach, as a counselor, as all of the hats that you wear? Help this person to make a move because they're saying that just sounds like too much.
Well, there was, I can start by giving a story of a man that was at the edge of a cliff, and he thought that he did not realize that the cliff in itself was a nice, there was an endless side over that cliff. So he got far out of the cliff in his excitement. And when he got up there, he began to slip. So he says, God, can you help me? So God says, let go. Let go. So he said, is someone else up there? If we do not let go, the first thing that we have to do, and I'm saying to this person, what do you have to lose is the question that you must ask yourself all the time. What do you have to lose? The danger with that person that doesn't want to change is what we call in our coaching a pre-contemplation. That is a dangerous place to be because you realize that you need help, but you are not reaching out. You realize that you need the change, but you are not reaching out. And you now become a square peg in a round hole. You can't move. You can't do anything. Your life does not change. It remains the same. You become a nice little mole or ant on the wall, a fly on a wall. You are just there seeing everybody moving and you are not making any change. And so at some point in your life, you have to fall off that wall. So you have to let go. And that's what I'm saying. Let go of your limiting mindset. Let go of your emotions. Let go of your short-sightedness. Look at the change that you must make. Visualize it. Look at the why for the change. Focus on the why and make the change. Some of us cling on to dear life, to baggage that does not serve any purpose. I am holding on to this job and nobody appreciates me. I am holding on to this relationship that died long ago. I am holding on to, it's just like having money in the bank and need groceries and not moving to take that money out of the bank because you decide that you have put that money in the bank for a specific purpose. And so you're going to die leaving that money. And those persons who you don't want to get it will get it because you're not reaching out to even help yourself. So I'm saying, let go. One, reach for what you want and help yourself. Help yourself. If you look at it like that, then you will do what is required to help yourself. Fight for you. Fight for you. You are valuable. You are worth it. And you make sense. You are enough. Make the change. You don't need anyone. You don't need to know that everything is clear and clear cut. Make the change for you.
Dr. Marcia, you have given us some really very specific ways that we can use to overcome. But I have one last question before we change the floor, Dr. Marcia, so we can get some questions. Let me put it this way. Somewhere in our brain, Dr. Marcia, there is a starting point and there is also a cutoff point. And both of these points are both specific and many times functions outside of our consciousness and even outside of our awareness. And I say this because on the bar of those 2 points is fear. I know you mentioned fear sometime in your past answers. But on those 2 bars, there is fear. At what point can a person allow that fear to propel them rather than to bring them back? And I say this because I spoke with a group the other day, and one of the things I said to them was my fear of becoming a victim that propelled me to move forward. At what point when these two intersect can fear become that propelling force for change?
Well, if we are to look at it from a psychological point of view, whenever there is fear, there are two responses that come upon us: fight or flight. But we find that successful people border more on the fight. I'm gonna be strong, I'm gonna be resilient, I'm gonna stand my ground, I'm gonna be immovable. And at some point in our life, when we have to make those changes, the thought that merges those two forces is the idea that I need to do this for me. And so persons who are making crucial choices that others do not understand, they say to you, I have to do this for me. And that's the crux of the matter. Whenever you combine intention and merge it with behavior that is beneficial for me, the crossover is not hard at all. Because that time, persons do not depend on any outside force. It becomes an intrinsic force that propels you to say, what if? What is at that other end? The negative end of the fear. I am not going to allow this to kill me. So it propels me to live. So I choose to live and not die. And although it is a metaphorical phrase and it's very metaphorical in nature, persons who take that approach tend to succeed. I am going to become an overcomer, is what you're really saying. This will not take me out, is what you're really saying. This is what I have to do. I must make it. I must show someone that what they said about me does not matter. Persons tend to say that when they say, all right, I have been told that I will not make it, I will not come out to nothing. When they tell that story, they say, I look back at that, and the fear is in me, the fear that was in me that I might just become a cross, and that what they are saying might just become a reality, push me to defy them. So at the crux of that, I am saying, I must do this for me. Anytime you cross over there and you merge intention with behavior, intent becomes very possible and action becomes doable because you make a change.
That is so clearly explained. I couldn't add a single word to that, Dr. Marcia. When intention and behavior intersects, then that's where the change happens. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Marcia Powell sitting with us around the fireside tonight, talking about navigating the purpose and price of change. And have we not heard how we can navigate that? Believe, overcome and adjust. Adjust that mindset, embrace the change, become familiar with what is and what will be, visualize. Wow, and it goes on and on and on. If you came into this room, you are coming out with something. You're coming out with practical ways to navigate change. And we said that change is something that is constant, always happening. Sometimes change wants to prevent you from moving forward, but you got it here. Nothing happens without a design from God. What are you willing to give up? What's giving you up? Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we must have some comments and some questions. So I am going to change the order of the room, and I'm going to respect time. But Dr. Marcia, before you leave, because somebody in this room said, where can I find Dr. Marcia to really talk with her again? She's a coach, she's a counselor, she's an instructor, she's so many things in together. Where can I find you, Dr. Marcia? That's what the question is. How can persons find you?
Well, they can DM me or they can touch me on my website, DrTP Motivate Me Too. That's really my work site. And then they can call me at 408-9565 or 231-1571. So they can send me an email on my business site, which is DrTP Motivate Me #2. Or they can DM me on LinkedIn, or they can call at 408-9565. Then we can move from there into appointments and into my chat room.
Excellent. And that 408 has an 876 area code before it, correct?
876, just right before it. And the 231-1571 has an 876 also.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you.
those are WhatsApp numbers. I can be reached on WhatsApp with those numbers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marcia, for such an inspiring, educational, deep